When Westworld first started with its narrative, Ed Harris's portrayal of the Man in Black was one of its biggest selling points. The character was cool, in control, and cruel. If there was a scoreboard, he would have topped it every year. His acting, paired with the time-twisting reveals that William was the Man in Black 30 years ago and ended up being one of the most incredible aspects of the first season. Let's take a deeper look into the character, starting with what makes him so intriguing. Probably the closest thing to a villain in the show, Harris's callous approach and total disregard for hosts made him the perfect villain. What better antagonist could there be for a bunch of hosts that just gain consciousness than the one person who's the best at getting rid of them? In the show's latest season, they managed to bring him back to center stage by sending him straight to the maze he was searching for in season 1. What made him such an engaging presence in the show was his diminished interest in playing the game. It doesn't seem to cut it for him anymore. Whatever value he could get out of the park, releasing his violent urges seemed to have faded away. He was, however, essential in making Jonathan Nolan and Lisa Joy's plotline land with audiences despite it being pretty nonlinear. As the show went on, he ended up becoming less and less potent. When the curtain on his identity and life outside the park was lifted, he was slowly overshadowed by larger plot points till he turned into nothing more than just a side character by the end of season 3. Moreover, what's his history? Events from 30 years ago talk about his delusionment with the park and hosts. He was first brought to the park by his brother-in-law, Logan Delos. William has to deal with being pushed around by him till he was able to loosen his moral boundaries and embraces his dark side. Though this doesn't happen till he falls in love with Dolores and gets separated from her when he's dragged back to the edges of the park by William as they leave a trail of dead hosts behind. Outside the park, he's stuck facing expectations the Delos family has of him, but inside the park, he feels free. This is especially true as he becomes obsessed with the idea of Dolores. He finally feels as if he's in charge and his life is not set out for him. When he finally reunites with Dolores, she's been reset and has her memory wiped. She's become the very thing he feared for himself, a being whose life has been predetermined for it. Furthermore, finding his true self, the park helps him get in touch with his darker self. So every year, he comes back to let his violent side loose in the only place where it's legal. In it, he becomes the Man in Black, a dark-clad gunslinger who is considered an in-game persona by many. For William, however, it's his true self, powerful, free, and not chained by others' expectations. Other than his wife, who saw a few glimpses of his true self, no one knows about his dark side. As soon as she finds out about the things he's done, she takes her own life, unable to handle his true self. He loses himself even deeper in this persona and into Westworld after her death, making him obsessed with a secret he believes is true. That is, the maze, what the Man in Black thinks is the final level of the game, one where the stakes are so high that real people can die. While we don't know if his quest is about finding himself anymore or just a suicide mission, it's all the character has left to live for. He's so disconnected from reality when he's in the park that he doesn't even realize the fact that it's for the hosts and not for him. Later on, Ford reveals that the maze is a model for giving hosts consciousness, and the further inwards they go, the more they start hearing their thoughts. Let's take a look at hosts gaining consciousness. It's through the inner monologue that the hosts can achieve self-awareness, a goal that William wanted for himself. It's the same pursuit of freedom and a choice that brings him to the park every year. He is now more jealous of them than ever. If we take the Delos secret project, which was made by William, he takes information from guests' minds for years, trying to mimic a mind to put into a host. While this may seem like an attempt at immortality, we'd say it's more him just thinking that hosts are superior beings. Though his project never goes the way he wants to, with minds deteriorating as soon as they're put into a host body, his experiments end up in him getting paranoid about him being a host as well? What if one day he woke up as a host without ever realizing it? Is that why he hates them so much or has such a dark personality? Was he just programmed that way while he hates hosts for their predictability, their potential, and fears of being one? Is he just insecure about his sense of identity? In the second season, he's excited for a game with real stakes, but his paranoia turns him into an unstable maniac instead. He's nothing but a man who's lost his reason to fight. Gone is the badass who is a force of nature. Ford tells him that he's made a whole new game for William, not that the maze is off limits to humans. Additionally, his growth as a character, even that ended up being a false promise. The final game was, in fact, to let all the hosts go free, which was successful only due to William's secret immortality project. After this takes place, the Man in Black loses his sanity as he starts treating the entire game as a threat and thinks that all of his experiences have been tailored by Ford, including his daughter appearing, Emily, whom he shoots down. Season 3 brings him to his lowest point, both in terms of his importance in the story and his character arc. He spends entire days just taking hallucinogens and grieving over his past. Soon after, Dolores' host copy of Charlotte Hale sends him off to a reconditioning camp as he undergoes therapy sessions with other versions of himself in virtual reality. Though this goes on exactly how one would think it would, with him killing every single one of them and finally coming to terms with and accepting his insane thirst for violence. This experience makes him emerge stronger with just one enemy in mind, the hosts. This era for him shows him while he's full of confidence, as he feels like he's found his one true purpose. That, of course, is to finish off every single host that exists and finally destroy the threat to humanity that he helped create. His goal turns from just letting an insane amount of steam off to a heroic one. That's further symbolized by his outfit changing to white compared to his usual black hat costume. It's an interesting twist for the character, but sadly, soon after this, he gets his throat slashed by a host copy of himself just at the end of Season 3. Finally, how does he redeem himself in Season 4? That's where the latest season steps in. After a season of the character doing almost nothing to his life-changing decision to kill all hosts, his mission was cut short by a knife to his throat. Despite this, he's kept alive in cryostasis for 23 years, all while a host version of him is following orders from Hale, traveling the world, and helping her build a world in which now hosts can control humans for their entertainment. William had now stopped envying them. Instead, he saw them as a scourge and was about to reach the peak form of his ideal self, only to then be a prisoner while his host carried on killing humans. Though something surprising came out of this, his character's arc is brought into a full circle as his ideal self comes to life. It's only natural that his next move is to kill the original and take over all of humanity. So humans kill each other, turning the entire planet into a massacre. It's fitting that if the Man in Black is left completely unchained, he tries to unleash his savage survival of the fittest ideology onto the planet until only the most powerful people are left standing. With the world having no more rules, loops, scripts, or moral constraints, we're left with only chaos. It's kind of poetic that he's responsible for the world ending. A place he always failed at was finding any meaning for his life, especially from an external source, whether it was his career, the maze, or some cause that let him go on a rampage. That's a wrap for this video. Thanks for watching. What surprises do you think we're about to see next? What are your thoughts? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.